Hello everyone. So the surface chemistry is over, the chapter. Now we will move on to the next chapter, that is P block elements. And as you know, P block elements you have to study from group 15 onwards. That is group 15 nitrogen family, group 16 the oxygen family, group 17 the fluorine family, and group 18 the noble gas elements. Okay. So these all, and moreover the boron and the aluminium family that you have studied. Okay, the 13th and the carbon family 14th you have studied earlier. So this here you have to study from the 15th group. Okay. Now what important is in this P block element is maximum number of questions are coming from this session, that is the P block and the D block elements. Okay, you can score more marks from this chapters. Moreover, this chapter is basically the CBSE will ask logical questions, or if you see the question paper, all the 5-mark questions or the 3-mark questions are mainly from this P block and D block by sessions, like 3 marks, 1 mark each for 3 questions like that. So all the questions are what? All the questions are mainly accountable questions or logical questions or reasoning questions. So what I want to say is, or actually you have to see the full topic as very, very important in the sense that every line is important in that. Or they will give a general trend. If you know, if now we are going for the 15th group. So if you are come across with the 15th group, we will study certain properties or certain trends in that period, that group. Okay, so nitrogen family, if you go for nitrogen family, it is nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony and bismuth. So these are the five elements in the 15th group. So in the textbook, or what we will cover is, we will give the important properties of these elements, from the top to bottom, what are their chemical reactivities, what are the formation of oxides, etc. But the question won't come in a simple way. So in that case, you have to assess that trend, or what is that in that question they are asking for. So that you have to apply in this questions. So that is why I told you each line is important in this textbook, and you have to prepare a special note for it. You can't go for my wordings, like whatever I thought that is it. No. You go to the textbook, have a very good thorough reading, and what all points you can get it. From that, you have to make an important note. Okay. So shall we start the 15th group? As you know, the 15th group is nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony and bismuth. And you know nitrogen, you can get it from the atmosphere. The 70% by volume, you will get nitrogen from the atmosphere. Or you can have from calcium nitrate, isn't it? Or potassium nitrate, chili saltpeter, etc. You can get this nitrogen. Okay. Phosphorus also from the apatite family, you will get phosphate also. Phosphate is stored in bones and all, it is there. So just like the occurrence, just read it that. That is not an important thing. Now, coming to the trends, or what all you know about, what all you want to know about in the 15th group. Now, as I said, if you are thorough with one group like 15th group, what are the trends in that 15th group? How the trends are going in the 15th group? Exactly similar, you can apply it into the 16th and 17th group, no problem. 18th is different, that is noble gas. But 16th and 17th will be easy if you know how to apply that. Or how you will apply, for example, if I say nitrogen is more basic than bismuth. So there is one value point, or there is some concept behind it. Like nitrogen is being very small, the electrons are there in that nitrogen atom, one lone pair. So it is easy to give out. Whereas in the case of bismuth, it is having a more atomic size. So the atoms cannot donate like that. So that type of questions, the quantitative questions are coming in. Okay, so first is we will go to the electronic configuration. As far as any group is considered, you should know the general electronic configuration. Okay. Now what is general electronic configuration of this? General electronic configuration is, you know, this is a 15th group. So it will be NS2, NP3. Why? Because 5 electrons are there in the outermost shell, isn't it? So NS2, NP3, and more important, the S2 must be full. Then only you can say it's a p block element, isn't it? The nitrogen, that from the 13th to 18th, you can say it as a p block element. That all you know. That's why I'm not entering into that level. You all know that. So NS2, the S2 will be filled and the P is there. And now see, by seeing this electronic configuration, you know P3 means what? P3 means there are orbitals you study. How many orbitals are there? 3 orbitals, Px, Py and Pz. Now according to Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, how will you arrange these electrons? P3. So it will be 1, 1 and 1, isn't it? Okay, by the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity and Aufbau principle. Now, see, in this case what happens? See, it is how maximum number is 6. Now this is 3, which means what? It is a half-filled orbitals. In the case of all this 15th group, thereby it is having a half-filled stability. Okay, half-filled stability. We will talk more about that later. So this is about the general electronic configuration. Okay, one by one we will see. So what about general electronic configuration? It is NS2, NP3. Correct. And if you know any, for example, if it is P is 3, it will be a half-filled stability. And if D is 5, you know D10 is the configuration. If it is having 5 electrons, then it is the half-filled stability. So that is about the electronic configuration. Okay. Then comes the atomic or ionic radius. You know, from top to bottom in a periodic table, the atomic or the covalent radius or the ionic radius increases. Why? Because the size increases as we move from top to bottom. Okay, so we can say normally it will increase, isn't it? Normally the atomic radius or the ionic radius normally increases. See, whenever we say about the general trends, there have some exceptional case. That is mainly due to what? The electronic configurations of that compound. That element. Okay. So, in this case also, from nitrogen to phosphorus, see, that's all the important thing. From nitrogen to phosphorus, there is a drastic increase in this radii. Okay. So, there is a very drastic increase in the covalent radii of this nitrogen to phosphorus. And you know, you have to search for the reasons behind it. So, then you have a logic reasoning there. So, what about this case? Why that drastic change happens? Because you know, being the first member of any group is different from the other members of that group due to the small size. Isn't it? So, this is having a very small size, and that is again due to what? Due to the electrons, isn't it? That small size is due to the small electrons in that, due to that. So, a small size of that atom, and then coming to the phosphorus, it is having a bigger size. So, there is an increase in the nitrogen to phosphorus. Then from arsenic to antimony, there is not much increase in the atomic or the covalent radii. There is also a reason for that. Why? Questions can be asked in so many types. So many formats they can ask. Okay. So why there is not a drastic change, but there is only a minimal change or a minimal change in the, or minimal increase in the atomic or the ionic size. That is because due to the increase, the fulfilled D or F orbital. See, when you are coming downwards, arsenic, antimony, etc., there what you will have? You will have the D block elements coming in. Before this, you see in the periodic table. Yes, after that what happens? D, then only what happens? D block elements come. So when it comes to this arsenic antimony here, the D block is filled, that is D10, and after that what happens? This S2, P3 is there. So due to the, there we will study what is there in the D block. So due to the fulfilled D or F orbitals, the increase is not very much. That is only minimal. Okay, that we will study about there, the lanthanide contraction, actinide contraction, the poor shielding effect, etc. We will study there. So just now you just study this, there is not considerable increase but only a minimal increase, and that is because of the, like study like that, fulfilled d or f orbitals. Okay, when you come to that you can correlate that. Then it will be very easy. Once you finish d and f block, concrete you can have a more understanding. Okay. Now, so this is about the increase. So just remember, nitrogen to phosphorus drastic increase, but arsenic to bismuth there is a minimal increase. This is because of the very small size of the nitrogen atom compared to the other members, it is like that, and this is due to the filled d and f orbitals. Okay, that is there. Simple. Only the trends are all simple. Now the third is ionization energy or IP. What about IP of these elements? Okay. Now you know what is an ionization potential. What is ionization energy? The energy required to remove an electron, the most loosely bounded electron from a gaseous neutral atom. That is the exact definition of an IP, isn't it? Now when you come to nitrogen, being a small size, the removal of electron is difficult, isn't it? Now as we compare to phosphorus having a greater size, the nucleus and the outermost valence electrons are little bit increased, isn't it? The distance is increased. Thereby, we can knock out an electron easily than nitrogen. So, as the size of the elements increases, isn't it? The size of the elements increases, what happens? The IP increases. That's a general trend. That's a general trend. Okay, because when we come to bismuth, what happens? This radius from the nuclei and the valence electrons of the bismuth is far apart when compared to the other elements. Okay, so that is why IP decreases as you go from top to bottom. Okay, but here as I already told you, there is a stability. What stability? Half-filled stability is there, isn't it? There is a half-filled stability there. So that is also you have to take into consideration. So when you compare the IP of this group with the IP of the 16th group, oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium and polonium, when you compare with the other group, naturally as the gradation goes on, this will have, the IPs will have, the values will be large than this. Okay. Because as we know from top to bottom the size increases even more. But due to the half-filled stability of this 15th group, the IP of this trend is more than the IP which you see in this 16th group. You got the point? Since there is a half-filled stability in this nitrogen group, what I mean is all this, nitrogen group, the taking away of, the taking away of an electron from like half-filled stability and oxygen family is like this. Okay, like this. Oxygen family is like this and nitrogen family is like this. This has got an extra stability. We have studied. The extra stability means, again 2 points are there due to symmetry and the energy transitions. Okay, the energy transitions as well as the symmetry, they are having a half-filled stability. Now coming to the oxygen group, when compared to the stability of the nitrogen group, this has got more stable than this, the p block, I mean the p orbitals. Why? Because of the extra stability. If the electrons are like this is termed as an extra stability. So if in an extra stability means the IP will be great. That means from a very stable atom, it cannot pull out an electron rather than when you come in the oxygen family. So question can be asked. Compare the ionization potential of the 16th group and the 15th group. So you have that point. In the 15th group, there is a half-filled stability. So the IP will be greater when compared to the oxygen family. Okay. So that is the reason why IP is greater. Okay. So that is about the IP. Correct. So first you have seen the atomics, the electronic, general electronic configuration. Second is the atomic and the ionic radii. And third is the IP or ionization potential. Okay. Now we will come to the fourth property of trend, we will say, that is electronegativity. All you know, that is why you have studied this 13th and 14th, you know, carbon and the boron family. In all this, the same trends are there. Now what about electronegativity? Electronegativity means what? Electronegativity means the tendency of an atom to attract the pair of electrons towards itself is called as electronegativity, isn't it? So as you go from top to bottom in the 15th group, the electronegativity decreases. Electronegativity decreases. Why? Because the size of the atom increases. Okay. Size of the atom increases, the electronegativity decreases. I don't want to get elaborate on that, right? How it depends on the size of the atom as well as the electronegativity. Isn't it? The polarizability and all factors comes. So that is about the electronegativity. So these are the trends, mainly the trends which you see in this 15th group. The introductory trends. Okay. That is okay. So just if you write the notes, you can have like this, just in one point. See, IP increases from top to bottom. Electronegativity decreases from top to bottom. See, like that you can have notes. So once you are seeing that, you can have an idea of what is there. Okay. Now we will see just the physical properties. You know, what is the physical property when we have to say in this 15th group? You know, nitrogen and phosphorus are non-metals, isn't it? P block. Non-metals, mainly non-metals, but in P block there is a speciality, you know. In S block you will say it is alkali and alkaline earth metals. And in D block you can only get metals, isn't it? But there is a P block in which you can have all the three. That is, you can have metals there, you can have non-metals there, and you can have metalloids there. So all the three types of elements you can have in the P block, isn't it? Okay. Now, non-metals, nitrogen and phosphorus are non-metals, then arsenic and antimony are metalloids, isn't it? Metalloids, and bismuth is a metal. See, in the same group you can have all these. That is, these are non-metals, then metalloids, and then metals. Okay. Now, when you say physical property, you can say as you go from top to bottom in this group, the boiling point shows a gradual increase. Okay, gradual increase in this boiling point. Why? Because in boiling point means the energy required to break that bond. Okay, so as this coming from nitrogen to bismuth, the metallic bond increases. The metal to metal bond increases. Thereby you can say the boiling point increases. Okay, but there is a speciality in melting point. Okay, just be very careful. The melting point varies. There is not a gradation in melting point. Gradation means what? If it is gradually it is increasing. That's why we say gradation. Okay, so there is no exceptional in this. That is, if one is increasing, then the next element is decreasing. Like, not like that. Gradation means, okay, it is increasing by a gradual change. But in the case of melting point, you know, there is some exceptional thing taking place. What happens is, as you come from top to bottom, the melting point first, it will increase abruptly. Okay, which means what? Which means melting point means what? The bond between this nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. is to break that bond between these atoms. That is melting point. So, melting point normally it increases because the bonds are very strong. Then what happens? Then you can, if the bond is very strong, the melting point is very high, isn't it? But when you come to the arsenic, antimony, bismuth, etc., normally in the case of arsenic, antimony, what happens is the melting point decreases. See, the melting point decreases, which means the energy to break that bond will be decreased than in this nitrogen and phosphorus. There is a reason behind that, which means, see, in the why this melting point decreases, the melting point decreases means, when you come from top to bottom or arsenic to antimony, the group balancing of nitrogen is +5. That means 5 electrons are ready for making bonds. So there must be 5 covalent bonds while coming from top to bottom. See, 5 covalent bonds are there normally. That is why you say it is a +5 valence groups. 5 electrons are there, valence electrons are there. But what happens is, in arsenic, antimony, etc., they will take only 3 covalent bonds. Very important. They make only 3 covalent bonds rather than 5. Rather than 5. So how many less? 2. That 2 is from this S2. See how it makes bonds? S2P3 is the electronic configuration, and it is having a vacant d orbital, that we will come to that. So there also they can make covalent bonds. So all these S2 does not take part in bonding. See, this S2, which is inner to the P, does not take part in bonding. So the d orbitals it will have again 2. So again, that is why they form 3 covalent bonds. Instead of 5 covalent bonds they can make, it only make 3 covalent bonds, making this S2 what? Inert. They does not take part in bonding, and there you call it as inert pair effect. It's also your study, inert pair effect. So due to this inert pair effect, the melting point of this arsenic and antimony is decreased, or when compared to the nitrogen and phosphorus, actually it should increase, but what practically is, they are decreased. The main reason is due to the value point. Just if you write inert pair effect, that's it. So that is, please go through the points. Okay, what are the logical reasons behind it? So now we are okay. When compared to the boiling point, there is a gradation in the boiling point. What is about melting point? Melting point, it must increase, but from arsenic, antimony and bismuth, it is decreased, or towards bismuth, being a metallic thing, it will decrease. That is due to the inert pair effect. And what is inert pair effect? The non-participation of the S bonding electrons or S electrons. That is, this S electrons does not, it remains studied, right? Nitrogen is inert, so it does not take part. These 2 electrons does not take part in bonding, leaving the other 3 to make the covalent bond. So instead of 5 covalent bonds, it makes only what? 3 covalent bonds. So that is why the melting point, there is a depreciation in the melting point. You got that point? So that is about the physical property. Okay. Then melting point, boiling point, that's all. That's the physical property. And then we see the chemical properties. Okay. From the chemical properties, first we will see the oxidation states. It's very important. Okay. When coming to the chemical properties, you can say, when coming to the chemical properties, can you see? Coming to the chemical properties, one is the oxidation state. Okay, oxidation state. And trends we will discuss later. First we will see what are the different types of oxidation states that this nitrogen family can have. Okay. First is nitrogen, especially nitrogen, will have the oxidation state from +1 to +5. You will see that. It will have an oxidation state from +1 to +5. But generally speaking, that is why I said all these groups there are exceptions. Okay, nitrogen will show so much like this, but phosphorus won't show. But coming to bismuth, they will show another criteria. So making all accountability, you have to study this. That is the main thing. Okay. So coming to the general oxidation state, the general oxidation state is -3, +3 and +5. Generally speaking. Okay. -3 means what? If you give an example for -3, nitrides, Li3N. See? Li3N means lithium is +1. So +3, this is -3. See? This is just an example I am showing. example of a -3 oxidation state. Okay, so generally these elements will show the -3, +3 and +5. Okay, so but the -3 oxidation state, they will show more in nitrogen and phosphorus. But as you go from nitrogen to, from top to bottom in this nitrogen family, the -3 oxidation state becomes less stable. See? So you have to account that. From top to bottom, the -3 has got a stability less. They won't show. In fact, the bismuth won't show any with the -3 oxidation state. Okay. So that only shows that +5, that is BiF5 is the only stable having a +5 oxidation state, bismuth. Okay. So -3 oxidation state, more stable towards nitrogen and phosphorus, and going from top to bottom, it becomes less stable. Okay. Now the second one, +3, you know, NH3, that is -1, that is -3 +3. So see, nitrogen family, it has got a +3 oxidation state. This most of the elements show the +3 oxidation state, but coming to bismuth, top to bottom, it will have a slight decrease in showing the +3 oxidation state. Okay. Now what about the +5 oxidation state? +5 oxidation state is a group valency, because 3 + 2, S2, P3, 5 electrons, 5 orbitals are there, S and P. Okay, so total 8 electrons are there for the bonding. So +5 oxidation state again is mainly shown by the nitrogen and phosphorus. Listen very carefully. I am telling, this +5 oxidation state are showing more in nitrogen and phosphorus, but coming to the higher metals, that is arsenic, antimony, bismuth, they will show +3 oxidation state rather than +5 oxidation state. You got the point? Arsenic, antimony, etc. will have greater stability for +5 oxidation state rather than +3 oxidation state rather than +5 oxidation state. Okay, so questions won't come like that directly. Why +3 group 15 element, why +3 is more stable when compared to +5 when going from top to bottom? No, they will give you a compound. For example, they will say why, see just an example, why SbCl5 is SbCl3 is more stable than SbCl5. See? How you will account for it? This type of questions they are asking. Why? For bismuth also, if you say BiCl3 is more stable than BiCl5, or why SbCl5 is less stable than SbCl3, then you look for the oxidation state. This is -1, this is +3, correct? Now this is -1, this is +5. Now you know it is coming from top to bottom. Then what happens? What is the effect that takes place from top to bottom in that group? In all the group especially, that is the inert pair effect. So that is why I told you what happens in inert pair effect. They will only make 3 covalent bonds instead of 5 covalent bonds, isn't it? So they will take, but normally the trend is, so it will only take what? SbCl3, and the 2s2, the electrons in the s orbital remains as inert, which you call it as inert pair effect. You got that point? That is inert pair. So these are the things you should remember. That is why I told you, you have to know all the elements in the group. In all the group we are studying. 15th group, if you say, you have to know nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. Oxygen family, oxygen, selenium, tellurium, polonium. Oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium. Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. Then halogens. Okay. So in the same way, you have to study all the elements in the D block element also, especially the first 2 series. The other one is, fourth is radioactive, that is not important. Okay. So that is why, so these type of logical questions are asking. As I said, there is no direct questions they will ask. They will take some compound from this and they will ask that question daily. So you have to know what is the point in that, or what is the logical behind that they are asking that. So here you have to know, okay, this is plus 3. Definitely you have to go for the oxidation state. So depending on the oxidation state, we can say what type of bonding. So this is plus 5, this is plus 3. Okay, from top to bottom, atomic radius increased, but there must be an inert pair effect. So that all you have to take into note. Well, coming from top to bottom, what all effect can be happening in the bonding, etc. Okay, so that is why I told you that every line is important in this chapter. Okay, so make a preparation notes very carefully. So that is why. So you know now, right? The oxidation state of plus 5. So going from, see, N2O5. N2O5 is what? N2O5 is the plus 5 oxidation state. This is stable when compared to SbCl5. Like the questions can also be asked like that. Why? Which is more stable? N2O5 and SbCl5. You know, Cl5 does not exist or very little exists because of the inert pair effect. But this can exist. So that type of questions. So you have to be very clear about that compound or the trend in that every group. Or if you know the trend in this 15th group, whatever trend we are studying about the stability or the hydrides or the reducing agent or the basic nature, etc., that you can put forward in the next 2 groups. So the next group will be easy if you are thorough with this group. Okay. So that is about the oxidation state. That is plus 3, minus 3 and plus 5. Normally minus 3 comes from top to bottom, decreases. Plus 3 will have that, but according to plus 5, what happens? The plus 5 will be very, very less when you go from top to bottom. But the only Fy element which you are seeing or which you know about in bismuth is BiFy. That's also an exception. This is stable. Again, there will be reasons about this fluorine, the very small size. Okay, that will come to later when you come for the halogens. So this is about the oxidation state. Clear? Now we will see the different types of oxidation state we will see in nitrogen. Okay, nitrogen being the first group, you will see, you have to study the anomalous behavior of nitrogen. For every group, the first element is very, very different from the rest of the element. Okay, there the 4 value points are there. However, the question comes, what is the anomalous behavior or what is the peculiarity of the first group or why the nitrogen is having a different distinct from all the other groups. In every distinct, the 4 points comes into picture. Okay, that we will deal with later. So now we will see what are the different oxidation states that we see in nitrogen. And as I told you, nitrogen will show from plus 1 to plus 5 state. Okay, plus 1 to plus 5. Now for plus 1, I will say N2O. See, what is the oxidation state of nitrogen in N2O? That is, oxygen is minus 2, nitrogen is here 2 nitrogen. So it will be plus 1. Isn't it? So this is plus 1 oxidation state. Correct? Now coming to plus 2. Plus 2 means what? NO. See, in NO, what is the oxidation state of nitrogen? Oxygen is minus 2, nitrogen is plus 2. Correct? Now, what about next? That is NO2. Sorry, N2O3. Okay, N2O3. So, it is minus 2. That is minus 6. So, if you want to have a plus 6, it is plus 3. See? Nitrogen in the plus 3 state. Normally, oxides. Okay, oxides of nitrogen is having what? From plus 1 to plus 5 normally. Okay, phosphorus will also have, but nitrogen is reversed. So plus 3 oxidation state is what? N2O3. Correct? Okay. Now comes what? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is what? 4 is N2O4. N2O4 is what? N2O4 is, this is minus 2, 8. This is plus 4, 8. So 3. See? So plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, plus 4. And what about 5? That is N2O5. See, minus 2, 10, plus 5, 10. So, in these oxides, nitrogen shows valencies ranging from plus 1 to plus 5. Agreed? So, this is about the oxidation state. Okay, phosphorus will also have the oxidation state, but still nitrogen is having a greater state. Okay. Now one more thing about this oxides of nitrogen is a very important point, that is the oxides of nitrogen undergo disproportionation reaction. What is it? Disproportionation. It's important for you. Disproportionation reaction, which means that it is not proportionate. Which means again, see, the simple meaning of this disproportionation means it will undergo self-oxidation and reduction. That means nitrogen will undergo self-oxidation and reduction in a single reaction. That is called as disproportionation reaction. So our oxides of oxygen undergo disproportionation reaction in acid medium. Okay, acid medium. For example, by an example you will make out. For example, HNO2. What is this? Nitrous acid. It is acidic medium, nitrous acid. Okay, HNO2. So this HNO2 will form disproportionation. That means HNO3 plus NO plus water. You just balance it. Whenever you write an equation, please remember, this P block elements. Initially, I just want to say that in P block elements, there are a number of equations are coming. It is just starting, our equations are just starting. Okay, means preparation. If you come to nitrogen, there are preparations. And in preparation also, there are so many types of preparation. For example, industrial preparation, lab preparation, how you prepare very pure nitrogen. So, according to that, there may be so many equations in this entire chapter. If you look into it, it will be having 100 of equations. But what you have to do is, you have to take a separate notebook or diary, which I say, which we call it as equations diary. Then, from the beginning itself, when you study, you make a note of these equations, only equations in that diary. So that you can have a reference of that whenever you can have an exam, or if you want to look at it, which equation is it. So you can have that. So please maintain a equation diary. Okay. Yes. So in this equation, coming back in the disproportionation reaction, what happens is, see, it undergoes self-oxidation and reduction in acidic medium. And now what do you mean by oxidation and reduction? Oxidation means what? Oxidation means depending on the oxidation number. Here we are talking about oxidation number. Oxidation means increasing of oxidation number. Reduction means decreasing of oxidation number. Isn't it? So in this case we will see the oxidation number. This is -2, that is +4, this is 1 and this is +3. See, the nitrogen oxidation number is +3. Correct? Now how it will change? It will change into oxidation as well as reduction. Oxidation means it must be higher than +3 and reduction means it must be lower than +3. And that too comes in the same equation. Correct? Now we will see. See, HNO3 -2 plus 1. So 3 into 2 minus 6 plus 1. So it is +5. See, this is +5. So here the nitrogen is adding +2. So that is oxidation. Isn't it? Oxidation number increases. That is oxidation. Now what happens in NO? -2 +2. So +2. So from +3 it is decreasing to +2. Isn't it? -1. That is reduction. So this is what is called as a disproportionation reaction. We got that? In many times it will come along with this other groups. What is disproportionation reaction? Which means they can say both in acidic as well as in basic medium. Especially this nitrites and all are acidic medium. So it will form an acid. So in this equation it itself undergo self-oxidation and reduction. So this is called as this. So this oxides of nitrogen are having a property of disproportionate in acidic medium. Phosphorus is also having that property, but you do not go into detail. You just stick on with the nitrogen. Correct? Okay. That's okay? Clear? What is this? Because you are studying for the first time, I think so. Okay. So is it clear for you? Then it's called as disproportionation reaction. Okay, that is about the disproportionation. Now coming, so I don't want to miss any of the points, that's why I'm a little bit of slow. Now the next point is about again with nitrogen. Nitrogen has got a maximum covalency of, or covalence, anyway you can call it as 4. Again logical questions can come. See, that is why I am telling you again and again, each line is important. Which means maximum covalency or covalence. What do you mean covalency? Covalency means what? In just one word I can say how many bonds are directly bonded to each atom or central atom is called as covalency. Okay, so which means what? Covalency means nitrogen can only make compounds like maximum of 4. That means 4 thing, NH3 or NH4 plus. NH4 plus 4. Okay, but other compounds like phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth, they can have, this can also have one bond with like hydrogen, coordinate bond. So maximum it can have what? It can have the maximum of 4 valencies, maximum, which is that plus share of electrons, isn't it? But in the case of phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth, they can go up to, for example, if phosphorus, it can go up to PCl6. Why? Why maximum covalency of 4 is restricted to nitrogen, whereas the others can go beyond that. PCl6 minus, then BiF6 minus, like that. Why? Because, as you know, nitrogen has got no d orbitals. That's the value point. That is, the absence of d orbitals. Being the first element in the group, there is no d orbitals, or the availability of d orbitals is restricted. There is no d orbital. So where it goes, where it expands, you know, expanded octet. You study SF6 in chemical bonding. You study the formation of SF6 as expanded orbit. It is not obeying the octet rule. It is an expanded octet. Likewise, there is no d orbitals to expand or the electrons to go into any other orbital. But when phosphorus, arsenic, etc. are concerned, there are d orbitals vacant, isn't it? So they can expand their octet or expand their atom or electron to the d orbital. So that's why they can have the compound like 6, PCl6, etc. Not PCl4. Correct? They can have PCl4, but they can also have PCl6. So the value point is, in nitrogen, there is no d orbital. But the question won't come like that. They will put a compound like why NCl6 is not formed, but PCl6 for minus is formed. Minus. PCl6 minus is formed. So then you have to think which logic it is connecting to. That's why I want to make again and again that point. When you study this, everything you will be thinking as one same. What is it? It is very easy. But when you come with the questions, we will see the questions. Definitely we will see the questions, previous year questions. Then you will have that idea of how the question is formatting. Just not a simple question they will ask. This chapter, they will ask that logical questions. Other chapters are, they will ask direct questions or simple logical. This you have to make out from that. What is that logic in this differences? So that is why it is important, I say. Okay. Again, so that is why no d orbitals or the non-availability of d orbitals is the factor behind the maximum covalency up to 4. Agreed or correct? So these are some of the oxidation states which you see in the nitrogen. Okay, so it's okay. That is, if I recap it, the normal oxidation or the general oxidation state you have seen is -3, +3 and +5. The -3 from top to bottom, the stability decreases. +3, it is having that. +5, no, only for nitrogen and phosphorus. From arsenic, antimony to bismuth, the +5 don't exist. There it is that +3 exists, or +3 is more stable than +5. What's the value point? Inert pair effect. So that is a, and then coming to disproportionation reaction. Okay, self-oxidation reduction. and then the maximum covalency. How many bonds that can be directly attached to an atom? That is what is covalency. In that case, nitrogen is having a maximum covalency of 4, whereas from phosphorus and bismuth, phosphorus to bismuth, they can extend their valency to 6. The value point is, in nitrogen, there is absence of d orbitals, or all the other has d orbitals available for the bonding. So, is that clear this much? That's okay. Now, we will pass on to the anomaly. It's very, very important. Same as every first in a group, the first element is having so much anomalous properties with respect to all other elements in the group. Correct? Now we will say one by one. Okay, that is just value points only. By point you can study the anomalous behavior of nitrogen. Okay, that is anomalous behavior. Anomalous behavior. What is the anomalous behavior of nitrogen? First point you can say, in every group, the first element is having a small size. The first element is having a small size. Any group you go, whether it is nitrogen or oxygen or fluorine or boron or carbon, in all these groups, the first element is, the size of the first element is very, very small compared to the second and boron. That is why there is a drastic increase in the radii, which we mentioned. Okay. So, first is the small size, correct? Now, second is, you know, high IP. Because of the small size, the pulling of electrons, because it is very near to nucleus, isn't it? When it is a small size, the outermost will be very near to nucleus. So, the effective nuclear charge will be very high. So, the removing of that electron from a positively bounded nucleus is very, very high. That is why high IP. Okay. Third is high En, isn't it? High En. What is En? Electronegativity. The same thing. Okay. So, small size, high IP, high electronegativity, and fourth is absence of d orbitals. Absence of d orbitals. Isn't it? The first element, the absence of d orbitals. So, these are the 4 points you have to write wherever the question comes as why the first element in each group differ from the rest of the element. Questions are asked. Last year also the question asked for fluorine. What is the anomalous behavior of fluorine? So, whenever a question connected with fluorine comes, you can have that point. That is, either maybe it will be due to small size. Okay, normally it may be due to the small size, and when combination with all these three, that will be the anomalous behavior of the first element comes in every group. So you have to study this. All the 4 points. Okay, that is small size, high IP, high electronegativity, and absence of d orbitals. Okay, so this is the basic differences or normal differences for any element. Now we will come back to what about the other specialities of this nitrogen. Okay, and the first, now we are clear with this. Now the first speciality is, for the anomalous nature of nitrogen is, you know, what is the structure of nitrogen? That is N triple bond N, isn't it? Or it exists as N2 diatomic gas, isn't it? So the structure is N triple bond N, which means the size is very, very less. When you compare to oxygen, it is only 2 bonds. But nitrogen means again, why the size will be very, very less. And in order to break these 3 bonds, the bond dissociation enthalpy, what is bond dissociation enthalpy? The enthalpy or the energy required to break that bond or dissociate that bond is called as bond dissociation enthalpy. And now what about nitrogen? Being triple bonded, the bond enthalpy is very, very high. For example, approximately it will come about 946, something like that, kilojoule per mole. Approximately 950. Okay, see the text. 946 or something, kilojoule per mole. So that much amount of energy is needed for this nitrogen triple bond line. I mean, N triple bond N. So you can again a point comes, that is the bond dissociation enthalpy of nitrogen is very high when compared to phosphorus or arsenic. See how the question formats. So we can say, since triple bond is there, in order to break the 3 bonds, high amount of energy is required. That's it. Okay. So the bond dissociation energy is very high. Then you know nitrogen is inert, isn't it? Because since it is very well placed, the 3 bonds very adequately placed, it won't go for any reactions as such. Higher temperatures it's okay, but at normal temperature it is inert. That is why in or chips and all, this nitrogen is flushed away being inert to prevent the oxidation, isn't it? Then, so that is again again you see, this is what? Pi bond. If you see the structure of nitrogen, covalent bonding, this is a pi bond. So there is, listen, there is p-pi bonding is taking place in nitrogen, chemical bonding. What is it? P-pi bonding. You know, sigma bond and pi bond, I don't want to elaborate on that. The lateral overlapping, okay, lateral overlapping of this pi bond. Like in nitrogen, there are 2 pi bonds, isn't it? So there is a p-pi bonding is taking place in nitrogen. Whereas in phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, etc., their single bonds are more, single bonds, that is the pi bond, sigma bonds are prevailing in phosphorus, arsenic, etc. In nitrogen only, this N triple bonded, due to its small size as well as the covalent character, the nitrogen is having a triple bond. Okay, so there exists a p-pi bonding. And it cannot have d-pi bonding. You know why there cannot have a d-pi bonding? Because there is no d orbital, isn't it? Simple. So since there is no d orbital, how can nitrogen forms a d-pi bond? Whereas in the case of phosphorus, arsenic, they can have even a d-pi bond. See? Simple. If the pi bond is getting like d orbitals, in d orbitals you call it as d-pi. If the pi bond is formed between a d electron and a p electron, it is d-pi. If the pi bond is formed between a p electron and a p electron, then it is called as a p-pi. Simple. Okay. So all these can happen. So nitrogen can only form what? This p-pi bonding. Correct? Okay. Now, then one more thing here I want to discuss is that this nitrogen triple bond is there. Okay, and we said that it is the bond dissociation enthalpy is very high. Now, one more point is, see, nitrogen is having a triple bond, and I told you that it is stable. It is stable. That is nitrogen triple bond is stable. But listen. This nitrogen single bond, if you say by some reaction, if you have a nitrogen single bond, is weaker than that nitrogen single bond is weaker than this phosphorus or arsenic single bonds. See, nitrogen single bond is more weaker in the sense what? Weaker in the sense that it can easily dissociate or it can easily cut off because there is only one bond. But that also, this nitrogen bond, single bond, I am talking about single bond, not triple bond, is weaker than PP bond. Again, there is one question. See, in every sentence there is a question behind it. Now, why this happens? Why the nitrogen bond is weaker than single bond phosphorus or single bond arsenic bond? Why? Because again, the size. You see, nitrogen is very small, isn't it? Nitrogen is very small and the other nitrogen is also very small. Now what happens? You know, nitrogen has got a lone pair of electrons, isn't it? Nitrogen has got a lone pair of electrons. So what happens? When these two nitrogens makes a single bond, there is a maximum repulsion between the lone pair of electrons in this nitrogen atom, thereby tending to get more repelled. Which means what? It can be more easily dissociated. You got my point? Once again I will write it. If a nitrogen-nitrogen single bond happens, same as fluorine, same as oxygen. See, nitrogen-nitrogen bond, it is very small compared to other elements, isn't it? Then, this has got a lone pair of electrons in it. So what happens? Electron repulsion happens. See, if it comes like this, the maximum repulsion from these two pair of electrons will happen. Thereby, we can dissociate the bond of this NN very easily when compared to the phosphorus bonds. So you got my point. So that is why the reason this nitrogen-nitrogen single bond is very weak than the phosphorus or arsenic. But definitely the nitrogen triple bond is very strong because there are one single bond and two pi bonds, isn't it? So the question is why nitrogen-nitrogen single bond is weaker than the corresponding, and that is the reason. Again a reason is coming. That is the reason why the catenation in nitrogen is less compared to phosphorus. Catenation means what? You have studied in carbon. Catenation means the unique ability to form single bond, isn't it, with carbon to form a large molecule. So if you want to make single bond, so here the single bond is weaker than the phosphorus. So the low catenation, the low tendency of catenation is due to the nitrogen. Again a question. Why this forms a lesser tendency for catenation? Why? Because of the single bond. So slow tendency for catenation. So see, for every sentence you will get one question at least, depending on the property. So if you don't know catenation, there is no point. Catenation is what? Single bonding to form a large bond. Isn't it? So if a single bond is formed between nitrogen, if it is weak, then catenation doesn't happen. Isn't it? So there is no catenation happening when everything is in comparison. See, whenever we talk about these p block elements, all the trends are in comparison to one element or one group. That's it. So here the pp bond, single bond is more strong. So the catenation is more seen in phosphorus rather than in nitrogen. Okay, so these are some of the anomalous behavior of nitrogen. So you got it? This is simple. First you have to study the four important points as small size, high IP, high ionization, high electronegativity and absence of d orbitals. Then a most important point is the p-pi bonding in nitrogen. Since nitrogen is a triple bond. Then the second point is the nitrogen-nitrogen single bond is weaker. That is why it shows no catenation property. Now it does not show the d-pi bonding because the absence of d orbitals. But the other will show what? Other will show the d-pi bonding. So all these are the anomalous behavior of nitrogen. So now you are getting on the track, right? Now you have to know, you will think of what can be the reasons, the possible reasons for this anomalous behavior of this nitrogen element. Okay, so this is about this anomalousity of nitrogen when compared to this. So next class we will talk more about the nitrogen family. Okay, so please take care. That's it. Thank you.